Only 6% of Gen Z say their primary career goal is reaching a leadership position. 6%. If you are in the other 94%, I want to talk to you because everyone is calling that a problem. I think it might actually be the beginning of something else entirely. I'm Rachel. I'm an organizational psychologist. I've spent 20 years inside Fortune 500 companies watching leadership break people, including the people doing the leading. And here's what I've come to believe. The fact that you do not want your boss's job is you noticing correctly that the version of leadership you have been shown is broken. What I want to make a case for today is that the very thing making you hesitate is the exact thing that qualifies you to lead. Stay with me and I will walk you through the research. I will tell you what I have seen and I will teach you the model I use with executives I coach. By the end, you'll have a complete picture of what leadership actually is, and you will know what your first move is. So here's where we're going. First, I want to name what you're actually seeing because you're not imagining it. Second, I will show you what the research says about who actually leads well, and it's going to surprise you. Third, I'm going to teach you the Groundswell leadership model, which has 4 pillars, and we're going to take each one apart together. Fourth, I will tell you about a final layer that most leadership content never gets to. And finally, I'm going to give you something to actually do this week. So grab something to take notes with. This one is a teaching video. Let's go. So let me start by validating what you are feeling because I don't think it's been named clearly enough. In 2024, Gallup found that only 21% of employees globally are engaged at work. 62% are quiet quitting. 82% of knowledge workers are at risk of burnout. 75% have experienced a toxic workplace, and 79% of them say poor leadership is the cause. Trusted managers dropped from 46% in 2022 to 29% in 2024. Those are not numbers of a system that is working. Those are the numbers of a system collapsing. And I want you to hear me on this part. This is not a kids these days story. This is not a nobody wants to work anymore. The people producing these numbers are the people doing the work. They are telling us plainly the way that we have organized labor and leadership is making them sick. I spent 2 decades inside that system. I worked my way into leadership roles at some of the biggest brands in the world. And I watched a particular kind of leader up close over and over and over again. This person genuinely cared about employees. I'm not being sarcastic. They did. But they were operating inside a culture where the unspoken rule was that your reputation mattered more than your impact. So every time there was a decision that pitted what was right for employees against what was right for this leader and made them look good, the reputation won every single time, just enough to compound. So over years, I watched that compounding damage thousands of people. People lost jobs, opportunities, years of their careers, and the leader kept telling themselves they were a good person in a hard situation. So that's the part I want you to pay attention to. The problem is not that bad people become leaders. Sometimes that is true, but it's not the core story. The core story is that the system rewards people for prioritizing optics over outcomes, and good people get shaped by that system until they can't tell the difference anymore. So when you look at that system and say, I do not want to do that, you're not being lazy, you're not lacking ambition, you're seeing clearly. The question is, what you do with what you see. Now, let me show you something that's going to reframe a lot of things for you. The research on what actually makes leaders effective, not what makes them get promoted, but what makes them produce actual good outcomes for the people they lead, is pretty clear. And most people just don't know it. A meta-analysis examined the correlation between narcissistic leadership traits and actual leadership effectiveness. The correlation came out essentially at 0. Narcissists get promoted. They are confident, they interview well, they self-promote relentlessly, but they don't deliver. Destructive leadership, the leaders who get short-term results but leave damage behind, that costs U.S. organizations an estimated $23.8 billion a year, just in counterproductive work behavior and turnover. That is what the tough but effective leader actually costs. We just never add up that bill. And on the positive side, there is a positive side. This is the part I really want you to hear. The research is now pretty clear that service-oriented leaders are associated with up to 5 times greater returns and much higher engagement and dramatically lower turnover than their power-oriented peers. So here's what the data is actually telling us. The people who want power for its own sake are the least equipped to use it well. And the people who are suspicious of power, who do not see themselves as leader-shaped, who want to work to be about contribution rather than dominance, those people are sitting on exactly the motivation profile that researchers say produces really great outcomes. So your discomfort with traditional leadership isn't a disqualification, it's actually kind of a credential. So I want you to really let that sink in, because the inner monologue that most of you are running might sound like this. I'd be a good leader, but I don't have what it takes. I'm too empathetic. I'd care too much. I'd get walked on. That monologue was installed by leaders who needed you to believe it. Because if enough people who care refuse to lead, the people who care only about power get to keep running things unopposed. You're not too soft for leadership. You're appropriately calibrated for the actual job. That job is not to dominate. The job is to produce conditions where humans can do their best work. You know how to do that. You've probably been doing it your whole life with your friends, your family, the group projects you quietly saved, the colleague you mentored when nobody asked you to. That's leadership. We've just been calling it other things. So now I want to teach you what it actually is in a way that is clear, that you can hold on to, and that gives you a map. This is the model I built over 20 years of practice and research. It has 4 pillars and a final layer. We're going to look at that whole thing first and then take each apart. Pillar 1 is lead yourself, the inner work, knowing yourself well enough to be useful to anyone else. Pillar 2 is lead humans, working with the people around you in a way that lets them do their best work. Pillar 3 is lead work, the thing most leadership models leave out, the actual craft and execution of what your team does. This pillar is co-equal with lead humans, not a step below it. We'll come back to that. Pillar 4 is lead change, because every leader is now a change leader. The world is not going back. The skills for navigating that are teachable. And here's the final level I call lead beyond. We'll end there because that's where this work is actually pointing. 2 things I want you to notice before we go deep. First, the order matters in a very specific way. You start with lead yourself, because everything else compounds on top of it. Then lead humans and lead work develop together. Those 2 are partners, not steps. Then lead change becomes possible because the foundations are in place. And then lead beyond is what you do when the work is bigger than your own organization. Second, none of this requires a title. Nothing in any of these pillars requires headcount, a corner office, or permission from above. You can practice every layer of this right now, where you are with what you have. So take a breath, get your notes ready. We're going to teach this like a class. Pillar 1, lead yourself. The premise is simple, and it's probably the hardest premise to actually live. You cannot lead anyone else well until you have learned to lead yourself well. Like relationships, you cannot give what you have not cultivated in yourself. There are 6 elements inside of this pillar. I'm going to walk you through each one in turn. Element 1, self-awareness. Tasha Eurich's message on this is sobering. About 95% of people believe they are self-aware, but only 10 to 15% actually are aware. There are 2 kinds: internal self-awareness, which is knowing what you value and what drives you, and external self-awareness, which is knowing how you actually land on other people. You need both. They are different skills, and they are both buildable. Self-awareness is not a personality trait, it's actually just a practice. Element 2 is self-regulation. So this is the gap between what you feel and what you do with it. When you get triggered, when someone challenges you, when something feels unfair, when you are tired and scared, what comes out of your mouth? Self-regulation is the discipline of catching yourself right in that gap, not suppressing the feeling, choosing what you do with it. You can be furious and still respond like a leader. The skill is a choice. Element 3, knowing why you lead. This is a question I ask every coaching client in the first session. What is your actual motivation for leading in this role? Not the polite answer. What's the real one? Is it status? Is it because you want to be important? Is it because you genuinely want to develop people? Those are very different drivers, and they will show up in different decisions. The research is clear that service-oriented motivations produce better outcomes than power-oriented ones, but you can't manage what you have not named, so name it. Element 4, psychological capital. This is what I call what you stand on. There is a research-backed cluster of 4 traits that determine whether you can keep going when things get hard: hope, self-efficacy, resilience, and optimism. The acronym is HERO. The point is that these are not personality traits, they are practices. You can build them. And without them, the pressures of leading and life will erode you faster than you can rebuild. Element 5, energy and sustainability. This is the part that nobody really tells you. Leadership isn't actually time limited, it's energy limited. You're going to run out of energy before you run out of hours every single time. The leaders I see last are the ones who treat their energy as a finite resource. Sleep, movement, recovery, joy. These are not productivity hacks. These are infrastructure. If you don't protect your energy, the rest of this is moot because there won't be a you left to lead. Element 6, your sphere of influence and climate. This is the one that most people miss. You create a climate just by walking into a room. Your mood is contagious. Your tone is contagious. Whether you are present or distracted, that's contagious. Lead yourself ends here because everything you have done in the first 5 elements shows up in the climate you create. Without you saying a word, before you ever lead a meeting, you are already leading the room. The question is what you are leading it toward. So that is lead yourself. 6 elements: self-awareness, self-regulation, knowing why you lead, what you stand on, sustaining yourself, and the climate you create. If that is all you've ever practiced, you would be ahead of most people sitting in leadership chairs right now. But it is the foundation, not the whole house. So let's keep going. Pillar 2 and Pillar 3, I'm teaching these together on purpose because the Groundswell model, they are co-equal. Most leadership frameworks stack people skills on top of work skills or pretend that the work skills don't matter. Both moves are not so correct. Lead humans and lead work, they're partners. You need both. We'll look at lead humans first and then lead work, and then you'll see why they belong together. Pillar 2, lead humans. There are 6 elements here as well. Element 1, creating psychological safety. The single biggest predictor of team performance. It's not talent, it's not the resources you have. Safety. The Edmondson research has been replicated for decades, and Google's internal research on its own teams found the same thing. People do their best work in environments where they will not be punished for taking risks, asking questions, or admitting mistakes. Your job is to build that environment. Element 2, driving the real motivation. There's a 40-year-old framework called self-determination theory that I think every leader should know. It says people are intrinsically motivated when 3 needs are met: autonomy, having a say in how their work happens; competence, feeling like they can actually do the job and grow; and relatedness, feeling connected to the people around them. If you build those 3 things, you do not have to motivate people. They will already be motivated. Element 3, building belonging and inclusion. Belonging is not a slogan. It's the felt sense that you can show up as yourself and still be valued. Inclusive leadership is the active practice of making sure that is true for every person on your team, not just the people whose style happens to match yours. Element 4, cultural fluency. We are leading across more difference than ever before. Different generations, different cultures, different working styles, different cognitive profiles. Cultural intelligence is the discipline of learning to read across those differences instead of expecting people to adapt to you. It is the most underestimated leadership skill of this era. Element 5, feedback that lands. Most feedback fails because it is delivered as a verdict instead of a gift. Good feedback is specific, timely, kind, and actionable. It treats the person as someone capable of growing. The research finds that around a third of feedback actually makes performance worse because of how it was delivered, not because the content was wrong. The skill of giving feedback really matters here. Element 6, system architecture. This is the one that elevates lead humans from soft skills to systems thinking. You're not just managing individuals, you are designing the conditions in which humans operate. Who has access to information? Who has decision rights? What does the meeting structure protect? And what does it crowd out? When you start seeing yourself as an architect of conditions, you leverage multiples. You stop fighting fires 1% at a time and start fixing the wiring. Now, Pillar 3, lead work. This is the part of the model I am most insistent about because almost no leadership framework includes it, and the consequences of that omission are everywhere. There is a body of research, the most prominent of which is Amanda Goodall's, that finds something striking. The single strongest predictor of worker job satisfaction is the technical competence of their boss. Stronger than salary, stronger than education, stronger than tenure. People want to work for someone who actually understands the work. Lead work has 4 elements. Element 1, domain credibility. This is knowing your craft. The leader who teams trust most are the ones who could actually do the work, not just manage it. You do not have to be the most technical person in the room. You do have to be credible enough to make sound judgments and to know when you are out of your depth. Element 2, operational execution. The unglamorous foundational skill of making the work actually happen. Resource allocation, process, quality, the boring middle of the work that is what most leadership content skips because it's not exciting. Excitement is overrated. Reliability is rare. Element 3, work design and clarity. Are people clear on what they're responsible for? Do they know what good looks like? Are the standards visible to everyone and not just the people who have been there the longest? Most teams suffer not from a lack of effort, but from ambient confusion. And ambient confusion is a leadership failure, not a personnel problem. Element 4, continuous improvement. The discipline of learning from every outcome, the wins and the losses, and making the work better tomorrow than it was today. Not optimization for its own sake, treating the work itself as a thing that you are stewarding. So here's why I teach lead humans and lead work together. If you only have lead humans, you build warm teams that cannot ship. If you only have lead work, you build efficient operations that grind people up. The combination, humans led well, work well designed, is what produces durable excellence. Most leadership traditions split these two and treat them as a dichotomy. That dichotomy has cost us a generation of leaders. You are the people who are going to put it back together. Every leader is now a change leader. The environment is not going back. AI is reshaping work. Climate pressure is reshaping business. The social contract between employers and employees is being renegotiated in real time. And if you are leading anyone toward anything, you are leading through change. And the research on change is very sobering. Most organizational change efforts do not deliver what they promise. And the most common reason is not strategy, it's actually the human side. Change is a feeling before it is a project plan. And leaders who skip the feelings work fail no matter how good their strategy is. There are 6 elements in this pillar. Number 1, vision. Not the corporate poster kind. A real picture of where you are trying to take people and why it's worth the cost of getting there. Without a real vision, change feels like things are being done to people. With a real vision, change becomes something people choose. Element 2, adaptive capacity. Ron Happett's distinction between technical problems and adaptive challenges is one of the most useful frameworks I've ever taught. Technical programs can be solved with existing knowledge. Adaptive challenges require people themselves to change. Beliefs, habits, identities. Most failed change efforts confuse the two and try to solve adaptive challenges with technical fixes. Adaptive work is slower, harder, and the only thing that actually moves a culture. Element 3, reading resistance. When people resist change, they are almost always telling you something true about what is being threatened, what's unclear, or what they're about to lose. Resistance is information, first and foremost. Bad change leaders fight it. Good change leaders interview it, accept it, expect it. Element 4, tolerating uncertainty. You'll not always have the answers. You will not always know what is on the other side. Your job is not to fake certainty. Your job is to keep moving with integrity through the not knowing and to model that for everyone watching you. That calm in the middle of uncertainty is one of the most leaderly things you can offer. Element 5, communication when once is never enough. People do not absorb change in the way you absorb your own ideas. You have been thinking about this for months. They are hearing it for the first time. The rule of thumb in change communication is that by the time you are sick of saying it, your team is just starting to hear it. Repetition is not annoying. Repetition is respect. Element 6, system scanning and contextual intelligence. This is the highest altitude version of leadership, the capacity to step back and see the whole system, the macro forces, the cultural shifts, the economic and political weather, and translate that altitude into real-time decisions on the ground. Leaders who only see their own team get lapped. Leaders who only see the big picture lose the room. The ones who can do both, those are the leaders who can take their organizations through what is coming next. And then there's the final layer, lead beyond. This is where the model points all along. Once you know yourself, once you know how to work with humans and how to do the actual work, once you can navigate change, leadership stops being about just your job. It becomes about the field you're in, the community you're a part of, and the world you're leaving behind. Lead Beyond is the recognition that leadership has a final ripple, mentoring people who will never work for you, contributing to your industry, being civically engaged, speaking up for things that do not pay you, building things that outlast your tenure. This is not a fifth pillar. It's what the other four pillars are for. It's the answer to the question, what is this all in service of? If you do everything in the first four pillars and you stop at the edge of your job, you have used all the tools and maybe missed the point. The point is to use whatever influence you build to make the world a little less broken than you found it. That's the Groundswell. Millions of individual humans leading from where they are in service of something bigger than their title. Okay, we've covered a lot. I want to bring it down to something you can actually do because otherwise this is just a really long lecture and we have enough of those. So pick one thing from one pillar, just one, that you can do this week. Here's some lead yourself moves. Take 15 minutes and write down what you actually want to be known for as a leader. This is not your title, but what's the contribution you want to be recognized for? Or ask one trusted person, what do I do that is hard to work with? And then I want you to sit with the answer for a day before you respond. Here are some lead humans moves. Send a note to someone whose work you appreciate and tell them specifically what they did that mattered. Or ask one of your direct reports or peers, what do you need from me? Instead of, why is this not done? Here are some lead work moves. Pick one process on your team that frustrates everyone and quietly start fixing the wiring on it. Or make one implicit standard explicit. Write down what good looks like for one piece of work and then share it. Here are some lead change moves. Identify one thing in your work environment that everyone tolerates but no one is naming. Then decide whether you are the one to name it. Or find one piece of resistance you have been frustrated by and treat it as information for the afternoon. Ask what the person is actually telling you. And some lead beyond moves. Reach out to one early career person and offer something they cannot ask for. An introduction, a recommendation, 20 minutes of real attention. Or register to vote if you have not. Check your registration if you have. Pick one local issue and learn the names of people who decided. Some of you are looking at that list thinking, none of this feels like leadership. I know. But this is exactly what has been missing. We've been waiting for leaders to fix what is broken. But what if the fix is that enough of us stop waiting and start contributing our small piece? That is how the Groundswell builds. One process repaired, one honest conversation, one mentee picked up, one vote cast with attention, small actions compounded over time by millions of people. This is how culture shifts, not just through heroism, but through accumulation. The reason I am making this video and the reason I'm writing the book I'm writing is because I believe the people who should be leading right now are the people currently saying, not me. If you have felt a pull, even a small one, please don't dismiss it. Do not wait until you feel ready. You will not feel ready. Nobody who has ever led has felt ready. What the people I respect most have in common is that they decided to move anyway. The world is not short on people who want power. The world is short on people who will use whatever influence they have to make the humans around them bigger instead of smaller. That is a choice you get to make today. All right, here's what I'm asking of you. If this landed, tell me in the comments which one thing you are going to do this week and which pillar it lives in. I read them, I'll respond. And if you want more of this, the research, the stories, the tactical, the occasional hot take, I publish longer essays on Substack. The link is in the description. If you have someone in your life who you think is sitting on a leadership gift that they do not yet see, send this to them. They might need to hear it from someone who is not in their head. I'll see you in the next one.